There is absolutely far too much hype around innovation. I'm a professor of innovation and I'm trying to build my own platform. I've spent unbelievable amounts of time, effort, money on the Reciprocity platform to make it easier for research professors, particularly within my domain of innovation, which is the great irony of it, to help them out. And yet nobody wants to join it because that they think that I don't know. I think it's honestly that they think it doesn't relate to what they're actually doing. And it's been really fascinating for me as I've gone along this journey. And, at the beginning, I was really hyped up about it. I'd sort of fell prey to reading about innovation. And what I've since realized as I've done this, there's a massive selection bias that's going on within the research game. And the selection bias is that we only focus on people that do innovates or that they sort of have positive outcomes for this. We often look at things like how much companies spend on research and development, or how many patents that a company has. But all of these things are fundamentally biased because they don't look at what actually real people do in the real world. And if you actually look at the real world, you just talk to people in a classroom, you'll realize that most people will never innovate that much. They try something, maybe you're heavily biased. There's some interesting research about household innovation that I like that Eric von Hippel has done that suggests that people do innovate a little bit in their household, but they do not necessarily do all of the heavy lifting of pushing something beyond their household. What you realize is that you have to go against a lot of mental blocks, and you have to go against a lot of psychology that is often trained against you or aimed against you. That you have to often deal with your own failure. You have to deal with a culture that often glorifies success. If you were to hear the fact that most people actually truly do fail and they feel miserably when they innovate, and you really internalize that, you wouldn't do it. But, there's these explanations that we have hubris, or that that we are prideful or whatever, right? Like these explanations in the literature that suggest why people may innovate or do entrepreneurial things. And I kind of believe it a little bit, because you have to look at it, you have to assume that if you think that you can outsmart what everybody else has done before you, man, you gotta have a little bit of pride or overconfidence or stupidity or whatever you want to call it. And I've fallen prey to that I've now realized, and it's very difficult for me to swallow. I have a lot of negative emotions at this, and even just talking about this openly as I'm driving home, it brings up a lot. It feels like I'm almost in therapy, because it is not necessarily um the hardest thing is not necessarily that I'm not able to do it. That's not true. Like, I'm able to build the thing that intended to build. That's what the reciprocity platform is that it almost feels like a breach of contract with other people, where I have to admit my misconceptions about what other people are and what they look like and how they interact. And I have to assume people are just people. They're not some sort of heroic sort of people that wanna help out, and, that they'll always be there for you. No, you have to look at people as if they're real people, and real people often do things that are not so great, that, many of us are not proud of. They lie, cheat, and steal, and do all the sort of normal things that people do, and you have to ask yourself, if you would aid you. How come you're not doing it yourself? And if you take that assumption, you look at it, you'll realize that most people don't do it because they fundamentally believe that either A, they're not going to be successful, or B, they don't believe in the fact of other people. And if you just look around and you start doing these kind of exercises of not necessarily looking at, what do people write about it. You look at like the sort of Fortune 500 stuff, or you read what CEOs say, and you look around and just look at real normal people on the street. And what are real normal people doing on the street? The people that you would call blue collar, the people that you would call is just common folk, whatever, right? Like all of these sort of things, these sort of pseudo whatever of just normal everyday people. And you realize that many of us don't do these things. We do our 9 to 5. We often care for our family. We um, maybe we play baseball. Maybe we go out for drinks. These kind of common things that normal everyday people. You don't see normal everyday people going and rushing and doing something where they're building something on the side. Like what I'm doing, it is particularly strange. I work in in a world where there's nothing but management professors and people that study innovation, and yet the people that I know of that's actually doing what I'm doing, I don't know of anybody else. I honestly don't know of other people that are doing this. And so if I'm in this weird area of my profession that focuses on innovation and building things and doing things, and all of those things that you might be heard about. But then when you look at what actually people truly do, they just do their 9 to 5. They do their job. They stay within what everybody else is predefined, what they think is normal. And they just do those things and they don't deviate from those things too much. And what you'll realize is that if you deviate from those things too much, you often get penalized for doing it. And, all of these things, if you add it up and you start really looking at what people truly do, like normal people, even within a domain where there's supposed to be a lot of innovation, go to Silicon Valley and see how many people are actually doing something that's innovative on the side. And you'll realize it's not that many people. It's extraordinarily slim, the number of people that are actually doing it. The people that keep it up for more than a year, more than 2 years is even slimmer. It is a tiny, tiny, tiny group of that entire population. And what you'll get and what you'll see is enormous infrastructure about people talking about innovation. There'll be enormous infrastructure about people talking about entrepreneurship or telling stories of it, but very few people actually doing it. It is a small, small, small group. And that small, small, small group often has to deal with a tremendous amount of psychological things where they often have to dwell on what it means that they're failing or feeling like they're failing. They often have to be often the laughing stock of their friends and family because they're working on things that people don't get, they don't believe in. They may be, people might think that they're obsessed or weird or awkward. All of those things that you think and you go and you talk to people. And I'm talking about real innovating things. I'm not talking about somebody on the weekend that decides to cut grass and make a little bit of money, but I'm saying that somebody that has actually reinvented the lawnmower and they do that on the weekends or they do that at night or any of those things. It's such a spectacularly small group of people, but they all feel that they're outsiders. They all feel like they don't fit in. They all feel like people are making fun of them, and they are. That's the thing. They are. They are all of those things. And the psychological problems and barriers that you have to face are often very, very large. And I completely misunderstood how difficult it would be to do something where I have to stand up and act strange and weird in front of everybody. And often, the harder part is not just that it's acting strange, but there's so few people that actually do come out and support, or the fact that I often feel like I'm barking off into the into the darkness and nobody's actually listening. These things are powerful. These are powerful emotions, feelings that prevent most people from doing anything, particularly if you're spending money and time and it looks like it's not going anywhere. I'm just saying, these are the reasons why people actually don't innovate. And the truth of it is, I think most of us don't. And if you do, it's often a far larger penalty than most people assume, because we don't count those people that maybe try for a week, 2 weeks, and they realize they can't do it because of the psychological barriers behind it. I'm just saying, if you're ready, if you're wanting to innovate, just be prepared. It's extraordinarily difficult. You will be surprised in how powerful that those feelings actually are. And you'll have to push through those feelings more so than you'd ever imagine. Good luck to you, and I wish you all the best. Take care, and have a wonderful day.